Well, tonight on Monday Night Raw, it was not a match in the main event segment. No, no, no. For the second major televised WWE show in a row, it was the actions and responses of Paul Heyman that closed the show. Is it just me? Or is WWE really having to pad out the last 2 weeks of WrestleMania build? You get the feeling that maybe they kind of booked everything out right up until these shows overseas, and now they're back in stateside. They don't have as many enthusiastic chants. But tonight was a very paint by the numbers Raw for a Raw 2 weeks out from WrestleMania, the penultimate Raw before WrestleMania. And we did get some clarity on the women's title situation. We had Rey Mysterio inserted into a match. But other than that, not a ton of WrestleMania progression, nor was there a ton of WrestleMania progression in the main event segment. But we'll talk about all that in just a little bit. I am Rob. This is the Nocturnal Knockout, a Brass Ring Media podcast on the One True Sport YouTube channel. What's up, everyone? Glad to be back with you on a Monday night in our regular time schedule. It has been almost a month since we've had regular Raw, regular time, regular groggy eyes. We're back at it. I'm glad to be back with you guys. What's up, Chris? What's up, E? What's up, Joe? The favor of CM Punk that was revealed on Friday, coming more results of that favor. Seth Rollins very invested in the favor. Seth Rollins trying to convince Paul Heyman to go otherwise. Seth Rollins now saying that he is owed a favor. How do you guys feel about the favor? We're going to have to talk about all that and much, much more tonight. No more favors. Boss, are you saying are we over on favors? Everyone's even, you're saying, boss? Joe's got Heyman betraying Roman and Punk at WrestleMania. Tonight's progression was all about that, right? It was all about Seth Rollins' role because let's face it, after Friday night, it didn't seem like Rollins had much of a role. He's just there as the side character in this ill-begotten triple threat, I have to say. It is not, you're not getting the feeling that the momentum for this match is taking over and that it is sweeping up the rest of WrestleMania season and is the primary focus. But as Eddie is putting out there in the chat and as Joe put out there, I think the intimation that a lot of people are getting off of this is that Paul will be turning on both individuals and aligning himself with Seth Rollins. I agree with that though as well. E. That is not a favor owing situation. If anything, wasn't the favor that Seth was offering up earlier in the night was to actually give him a curb stomp? And whenever he didn't deliver on said curb stomp, doesn't that mean that the favor by Heyman was rescinded? A lot, boss. A lot. Got another one officially added tonight, as we knew we would. And some interesting crowd reactions in the opening segment of Raw. We're going to break that down as well. The Minnesota crowd was very lively tonight, as you would expect. We also got some admissions by Jey Uso. Some seriousness by Jey Uso. We also had ourselves an intercontinental title match, women's intercontinental title match. Maybe the best match yet for that title. And we had a real dud on guest commentary tonight. Let's break it all down. Let's start from the bottom. A little bit different format tonight, guys. Let's go. I'm going to take these in basic order of importance instead of going down the Raw recap of minute by minute. We will just go down by what I felt were the biggest to the smaller segments of the night. But you obviously can always chime in, get in on the chat the way Boss, Eddie, and E are right at this moment. So let's get into it, guys. There was not a lot of progression on the Heyman favor throughout the night. It was, in fact, intimated that we were going to hear from Heyman later on. Now, we knew going in that the people we would see tonight were CM Punk, Seth Rollins, and Paul Heyman. And we knew that we were not going to see Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns tonight was announced for next week. So at least on the Go Home Raw, we will see Roman Reigns. This storyline... Hey, what's up, Sean? This storyline will peak next week, keep going, but it goes across multiple shows. I couldn't even tell you almost at this point what brand everyone in this situation is on. I want to say they're all on Raw, but I think Roman's technically on SmackDown, but I don't know. They tend to cross paths on whatever show that they're on. Now, coming out there, Heyman made his loyalties to both Roman and Punk laid very, very clear. He wanted to make something clear, kind of intimated that he would take neither one of their sides, which would kind of, I don't know if that really aligns with everything that and how he responded to CM Punk on Friday. So he wanted to make something very clear. But as soon as he was coming to make something clear, Seth's music hits. And Seth is like Bobby Heenan in 1996. He just wants to know whose side is he on when it comes to Heyman. And he points out he's so loyal to Roman, but he mentions the fact that it was Roman who left him post WrestleMania, left him under the care and guidance of Solo. Talked about him being put through a table in his hometown in front of his kids. It was Roman who did that to him. He then brings up CM Punk, who he notes that they may be such great friends, but CM Punk was not the first choice at War Games. In fact, it was Seth that was said to be the first one because he was the first one that was confronted. Being in his corner doesn't mean he needs to interfere. That's correct. He's essentially just his manager and his guidance through it. I think that's some of the implication there, though. Seth has a solution, though, for Paul Heyman. He has a way out of the situation. He simply says that he can put a boot in the back of Heyman's head, takes this all out of him. If Heyman's just injured for a couple of weeks, what's up, Hassan? It would seem that he doesn't have to make this decision. He's free and clear. Basically, he's asking for him to take the sacrifice. Obviously, Heyman is not going to take the sacrifice. He's not going to lay down and let Seth Rollins just curb stomp him right then and there, is he? No way. Ain't gonna happen. But then he starts pressing him a little more. He starts pushing him out, saying Roman's not here to save him. How much is he worth? Because he notes that Punk only cares about the money. He had the old line that Punk says, "Other people are here to make money, make friends. I'm here to make money. I'm here talking to you guys because apparently I can't speak." And this continues for a minute, and then Punk runs out there like a house of fire at Seth Rollins. He is there to save the day. Big brawl breaks out, as is always the case when Seth and Punk get together. At one point, you had Seth's head right on the steps, and it was going to be Punk delivering a mighty, mighty curb stomp, but Seth gets out of the way. Back in the ring, it is Seth that has the upper hand and delivers a curb stomp to CM Punk. And where Paul Heyman is positioned, how he's holding on to CM Punk, he is now in position to take a curb stomp. And Seth Rollins simply runs like he's going to do a curb stomp, runs right up to Heyman, jumps right in front of him, says, "Now you owe me." And that's basically how we go off the air. Again, does this mean there's another favor? There's a triple favor? Roman must really feel bad that he hasn't asked for favors. He just has been given general counsel, and he's not getting all these special favors that all these other people get. But I do not think the stomp situation is any sort of catalyst or should be any sort of catalyst for Heyman to betray either Roman or Punk. Maybe the things in the promo that Seth was saying tonight, I think maybe some of those you can point to if you want to build that out as part of the storyline. But I do not think that sacrificing him on this stomp would be enough for him to be indentured to him in the way that he said it. Specifically, what he offered such the same exact solution earlier in the night for a much different reason. If we're having trouble following this and if we're wondering why any of this matters or what's going on, it's because this storyline has been so weird, so disjointed for a match that no one really wanted to see. And here's the results after our long, long build into WrestleMania. This is what we got with this situation. Everything's just kind of okay with it. Every time CM Punk and these guys end up in physical situations, the crowds are very much into it, which makes me think when they have the actual match, I think the crowds will be very much into this. But no one asked for this match. The natural progression, I think, was Punk and Heyman, even with the context of this storyline, battling over the desires and wishes and charms of a manager. Seems like it's something that's more set for a one-on-one match. I disagree, Eddie. I just think it is so shoehorned. I think there's an individual story with both guys, and I'll be honest with you. I do not know how much there's really a desire to see Seth pay off his piece of the angle from last year. I know it was an extremely important part of that main event, but is anyone clamoring for that part of the story to be finished? I would say, if anything, we've had a Roman Reigns that was kind of pointed out tonight by Seth that's been stuck in one gear since last WrestleMania. They have not moved on from that character in that match in an entire year. But at the same time, if you're going to have Roman out there, of course he's going to be in something big. Of course he's going to be in a main event. So you have to have him in this position. But I just, the story leading up has been so much of nothing. So much of these guys saying that the other guy isn't there is basically this entire build for a lot of months. I hope the focus is on Roman going forward, Eddie. I really do, because there has been no focus on Roman for a year, no real progression for a year. So I hope something happens with that, because then he would run the risk of being a bit of a third wheel and a bit lost in this. Although I think Seth is the one that ends up being kind of the ultimate victim. Even if Heyman teams with him, I don't know that necessarily benefits Seth the way it would benefit the other two, the other individuals. I don't know that being with Punk, being with Heyman necessarily benefits Punk either. The Heyman thing works very specifically with Roman, and so I understand that as a carrot in the story, but I don't think people are that attached to it either. I think that's part of the issue with the storyline too. Like, even when it goes back to that favor on Friday, are people really that invested in who the manager is of one of these baby faces? I I, I don't think the connection of Heyman and Roman, or the connection of needing Heyman to be on the side of the wrestler you cheer for, is a good enough hook. Eddie, isn't Roman the tribal chief? Isn't Heyman the wise man? Yeah, I know that's your response for everything, Eddie, but I'm just laying out um an objection to why I think this feud feels a little cold. And let's be honest, the product has been kind of boring for most of this year since the Rumble. And I think a lot of it goes back to this feud anchoring one half of everything that's going on. With all that said, were tonight's developments, does it make you any more, less, or equal amount invested in ultimately this match? Because regardless of what me or anyone has to say about this match, it's well, that's in a different category, Eddie. You're not going to find me giving praise to that stuff. Uh, you're talking about a title reign that's never going to end, and just has people going crazy. You got Punk winning the match overall. Yeah, I have no idea who wins on that one. We'll talk about that next week. Um, we could go a lot of directions. By a lot, obviously, there's only three. I don't really see Roman winning. I see it's got to be one of the other two. I'm leaning Seth as well, just the way the storyline's going. But I don't know. I also think always on these WrestleManias, but we don't always factor in, is the result of the night two main event, I think, plays into the night one main event. And it's something to sort of keep in mind. Is there going to be one night when fans go home happy and fans go home angry? I don't know. Or is it going to be and what would necessarily in that match, the Punk Roman Seth one, what constitutes fans going home happy, if that's even a consideration? Yeah, Eddie noted we didn't get Cody tonight. We got really no progression, other than a video package recapping last week. So we had no progression with the Cena heel stuff, with the Cody stuff, and obviously we didn't really have anything on Friday either. So we got one more week to build that, or else that's going to go down as the UK build. But we'll see. We also had the follow-up tonight of Jay and Gunther. Last week, the feud took the dramatic turn. After it was a couple of weeks, too, of people really being critical of the Jay Gunther feud, its placement. A lot of people very critical of Jay's spot in that match going into last week. Last week, I think there was a lot of praise for the segment. It was something else. Even when you watch it again, the beatdown of Jimmy and the blood all over Jimmy. So we get a recap of the previous week. And within the recap, it wasn't just showing the straight video, it was also images of the Usos. There was still photo of them as kids and some of the stuff they've done within WWE. Now, Gunther's out there, and he is coming out in his suit, looking like the happiest person in the world for everything that he did to Jay. He's just smiling. He's having a good old time. Before he's even able to get a word out, though, Jay's music hits, and Jay's walking down the ring in a serious tone. Now, I was looking at his lip; it did look like he was looking to laugh the whole time, but he was coming down in the serious tone. What I liked about the serious tone, one, it was necessary for the story that they were telling. I think if he would have came out doing his smiley jokey thing, that would have really validated some of the criticism that Jay has received and his character has received, and that it's nothing but the entrance and all that. I think all that would have been in place. So I'm glad that he didn't really hold that up. It was very obvious though that he was not going to break into the yeeting, that this was serious time. But when he didn't do it, McAfee just didn't get that was what they were going for. And it was the funniest thing because McAfee, when it was pointed out by Michael Cole that there was no yeeting going on, McAfee was like, wait till this beat drops. Beat dropped, semi-serious. It took like another minute for McAfee to catch on to what was going on. But out in the ring, they're both holding a mic, and Jay knocks the mic out of Gunther's hand. Then Jay starts asking Gunther about his mom, if he talks to his mom, what they talked about. And he said that he had to tell his mom that her son was in a hospital bed. And his mom wanted to know why didn't he protect his brother. And they had to tell his mom he was afraid. Now, this was the part of the promo where I still have a problem with this feud in just how much of an underdog they're framing Jay as, or how much of a loser, and so to speak. He said, I'm playing chess, you're playing checkers, this and that. But he says he's not afraid anymore, and he's going to overcome, and says he's going to need forgiveness for the man that he's going to become. And it's a super intense kind of thing that just kind of ends like that. No physicality, nothing like that. It seems like they almost didn't know when to cut away. They're going for like a dramatic pause, but this was not the Jey Uso that you're used to. This was not the happy singing, yeeting Jey Uso. This was very serious Jey Uso, as it should have been after the angle of last night. They do seem to have refocused this feud. I'll give them that, because they were doing the same thing for about a month, and now, as you pointed out, we had some progression in this, and I would think in the next couple of weeks, you would want to be doing more of this to make him feel more like an equal, make him feel like more like someone who can get this done, or should there be any reason in investing in. And like I said, based on this build, I don't think it's gonna happen. I still think Jay is gonna be the one to get the victory, but based on this build, I'm still not convinced that he's walking out of there with the title. But I think whether or not that's the case, and it probably will be, you have to make it appear as if he has the ability to, because or else why are you going to invest in the thing? And I would say the main event, the Seth promo was pretty drug out, but a lot of this stuff was rather quick on tonight's show. A lot of these segments had like a nice firm length to them. But that adds another layer to Jay and Gunther. So now it's this extremely personal feud, as was laid out last night. We have to see too what the landscape is going to look like post Mania before we start making predictions in terms of who the champ is going to be coming out. I'm going to get to that right now, Eddie. Because the other big development was Adam Pearce solved all the problems in the women's division. Adam Pearce had to settle everything. He had all, and this is how we opened the night. Had all three women coming out there. Pearce says that he takes responsibility for thinking that the three of them could be professional. And so he declared that it's a triple threat. Now, there's a lot of bemoaning of triple threats on the internet and wrestling discourse right here in this chat. That fan base in Minnesota, they were so happy to be treated to that triple threat, to know that triple threat was happening. That crowd was totally into that when Adam Pearce said that. Bianca gets on the mic first. So she gets kind of booed for suggesting that any part of this situation could have been unfair. And every time there's a reference back to Rhea, there was just tons of cheers for Rhea. Whenever Bianca would cut other parts of the promo that were not directly related to Rhea, then she started getting the cheers back from the audience. But anytime it was in the proximity of Rhea, there were quite a bit of boos handled her way. Io, as she always does, gets shoved to the side, but this time from outside of the ring, just as Bianca and Rhea are about to do their weekly brawl. Io hits a big old drop kick from outside of the ring, and then happily signs the contract. And we are official for the triple threat. Io seemed very happy with Adam Pearce. Michael Cole made all the notes to say that she was tired of being the third wheel and ignored in this, and now she has made her statement. Based on the crowd reaction here, I guess Bianca's going to be the heel in this program going forward. I think Rhea has been portrayed as the heel, but obviously that's not how the crowd is receiving her at this point. And you put all the normal problems that you have with the triple threat, you put all those aside with this one. It's bad enough when you have a triple threat and it helps people not get over. It's even worse, I think, with the three baby faces in this situation. So they got to choose someone to turn against, and Bianca has caught the heat for that. And I don't know about you. Are you seeing a need for a heel turn for Bianca coming up? Is there one? Was there going to be one coming soon? Is that a direction that they're going to go? If not, is she just being weakened as a face that you didn't want to win her WrestleMania match? These are problems that are always present with triple threats, but in this situation and this haphazard nature and the way this is thrown together, it's just like I don't know who this is serving really. I mean, I think it's serving Rhea because the crowd is really into Rhea, but this is not the same level of Rhea character that we had a year ago. That would have been the time to do it. I mean, that was hard though too because of what else was going on with her storyline with Jade. I think that made all that a little bit difficult. You know, the women's division, isn't this great? Like, think about, we're talking about this triple threat, and I don't get the sense, you could tell it coming from me, and I don't get the sense from you guys that there's a ton of interest in this storyline. I think it's a bit of a mess, and that's a general consensus. But I ask you, which women's storyline do you think is going better? The title match on Raw or the Tiffany Stratton Charlotte stuff on SmackDown? Which one would you prefer? Now, I think the triple threat and all of this from Monday, you've got a little more to work with. I think the end result will be a little bit better. But none of this has that awesome train wreck quality that we got on Friday. That's some one of a kind stuff. That was amazing. every morning, or every like 5 hours, I open up my YouTube app, and it's great because there's more backstage reports on all that. We have to keep getting into it. We have to keep digging. On a night where the favor was mentioned, on a night where Kevin Owens said he was going to be out indefinitely, I think the biggest story was the weird work shoot moment that Charlotte and Tiffany had. Pointing to the fact, and I say all that, bringing it back to Raw to say that what the hell is going on in women's wrestling in WWE right now? It is terrible. And we've known this, but I think we've hit a nadir this week on these top programs. And this ain't the Divas era. We've got talent. This is just bad booking all the way around. Speaking of Lyra, and there's not a lot to say about it, but we had Lyra Valkyria defending her women's IC title against Bayley, future tag partners. So this is a friendly rivalry, a win that Lyra has been desperate to get back. And this match went on for, I want to say, 2, almost 3 commercial breaks. It was very good. This was a really good match. I felt the crowd was really invested in it. McAfee and Cole were calling it instant classic. I do not think it was quite worth that amount of praise. I think that was a little bit. But the finishing sequence was very, very cool, where you had a Boston Crab sequence, a really sunk in Boston Crab. And then you had a Boston Crab that was almost teased into a Lion Tamer. We have a Y2J Bayley over here. Always gets in that the the Lion Tamer, good one. But then there is she counters out of it. She sort of swings out of it. Bayley goes for her move. What's the name of that move that she was going to hit? Kind of that side sweep, but gets reverse flipped into a pinning situation, and Lyra picks up the pin. A nice title defense for Lyra. I know the pin was kind of quick, but it was crafty and it was creative, and it was good to actually get some progression with the IC title scene to the extent that such exists. Now, after the match, you had Bayley storming out, pushing her, all angry, and then realizing the error of her ways and coming back and hugging her. So let's see if they're trying to tell the story with Bayley, maybe, where she hasn't won actually in quite a while. Remember, she was challenging for the title earlier in the year. A bit of a cold streak. I wonder if they're going to start building that in to her character. Yeah, Liv and Raquel were in the backstage segment, but that was it. We got the first commercial cut to Judgment Day, as we do. The LWO, Dragon Lee, Cruz del Toro, and Joaquin Wilde took on the Creed brothers in El Grande Americano. They were, of course, with Ivy Nile. These 6 people just flew all over the place. This match was fun while I was going to. Cruz del Toro had a heck of a dive that he did. Michael Cole was struggling with the names of these people, and I don't blame him. I've been struggling speaking all night, but it was a nice bit of flippy fun while it was going on. You think Kaz? I'm going to say it's Christopher Daniels is on. Yeah, so as the course of this match is going on, Ray sees Americano getting something from Ivy Nile, slipping something into his mask. He has himself a loaded mask, which leads to a headbutt to Rey Mysterio. Ray's trying to point out the injustice, and he eats a headbutt for his troubles. And then we have a flying loaded headbutt on Dragon Lee. Of course, El Gran Americano getting the win here. 1, 2, 3. Later in the show, Rey Mysterio, he's livid. He's talking to Adam Pearce. Adam Pearce is the kind of manager wants to get Ray out of his office, man. Just whatever I respect you, man. I'll give you whatever you want. He wants to give Ray whatever it is. Ray must have something on him. So Mysterio does not, I repeat, he does not want a match with Chad Gable at WrestleMania. No. He wants a match with the person who is making a mockery of everything he's ever done and everything he's ever believed in. So he's going to face El Grande Americano at WrestleMania. So Rey Mysterio has his WrestleMania match. Luchador versus Luchador. Yeah, that would make sense, right? Unless Americano's winning, then there would be no unmasking. So that might not be the direction that they would decide to go in if that would be the case. We had a tag team title match. Did you remember we had a tag team title match on Raw tonight? Be honest. It was the War Raiders taking on the New Day. The match was all right. It wasn't particularly long, but it ended in a DQ when Ivar got caught holding the chair. Xavier Woods was doing the whole thing, pulling the chair back and forth. Ivar pulls it from him. He gets his hand caught in the cookie jar. We get a DQ. Post-match, they always kill Eric in the folding chair. They have his neck in it. They're going to stomp on him. Boys in the back come back to save the day. That was not important to this match. That is just regular Raw. What was up with Tony Hinchcliffe on commentary? Yeah, he started out calling Michael Cole old, which is fine. I support like bullying Michael Cole. We should always have that. And then what was weird about this segment, or should I say about the commentary with Tony Hinchcliffe, is he was just telling random like observational comedy that was somewhat related to what was going on, but then he'd say the thing, and McAfee even is trying to get, and McAfee's getting distracted here, but he's trying to get on track. Michael Cole's trying to get him on track. It was weird. It seemed like they had a talk with him at halftime, and he changed, or when they went to commercial, and he changed it up a little bit. There was a note: Have you checked your mentions? I don't think it was going very well, and they were well aware of it. He says he was hoping that the New Day had become champs, but the DQ means that the New Day is winning at Mania. Again, I've been saying this for a while. The Raw tag team division does not feel like the hottest division in the world at any point in time. Yeah, I know he's been a fan for a while. He should stay in the stands. Are you tired of the Netflix cameos? I mean, the Burt Kreischer one was okay tonight. You did the thing with Otis, had drinking the beer. I'm tired of the Netflix cameos though. I don't know why. Like I didn't need to see the director of that Netflix show tonight. I don't need to. Yeah, there was a lot of UFC ads tonight too. At least I got. I also had the thing. So I don't pay for premium Netflix. Maybe if you guys send in like a whole hell of a lot more super chats, we can start doing that. But I see the commercials just like all the rest of us plebeians. And tonight I was getting little glimpses. I had like 4 seconds of a Liv Morgan promo. I had some part of an entrance tonight. I had little bits that they were missing where they were supposed to be showing me DraftKings ads or whatever they were going to be showing me. Can't wait for that, E. Can't wait for that. Speaking of title scenes, let's talk about the Intercontinental title scene. Because as we learned last week, we are getting ourselves a fatal 4-way with Dominic Mysterio, Finn Balor, champion Braun Breaker, and of course, Penta. And Penta ended up going head to head with Dominic Mysterio. Penta ended up getting the win here after a fairly long match. I did not actually expect this to go as long as it did, but it did. Carlito comes out to help Dom post-match, but Braun Breaker comes out there and he was gunning for Carlito. That spear that Braun Breaker did was awesome on Carlito. When he ran out there, he was just flying. Just shot out there. And then he also got a spear in on Penta. And Braun was celebrating, doing his thing, and then he was attacked from behind by Finn. And then they end up getting the best, getting to each other. Wait, did Braun get up for this? I actually don't remember. I actually don't recall. I wanted to say that Braun got back up. I felt like a lot of people got beat down. That was the little bit of live that we did get tonight, making it clear that she's the one that got both people in the match, and Finn showing his concern. And then they said it doesn't matter. It's like a someone brings the title back. So obviously there's big parts of that tension building. There was tensions last week with Braun and Penta. All the multi-person stuff, I would have rather seen either the directions that I thought they were going to go into. AJ and Braun, I think, would have been fine. Penta and Braun would have been fine. And despite all the misgivings I've had earlier about all these multi-person matches, this one's okay. An IC title match, you got a mixture of heels and faces. There's 4 people. You got to fit a lot of people on the card. I'm okay with it right here. I didn't wish there was so many other multi-person matches, specifically in these title and main event matches, but it is what it is. This one's okay. Is there anything from Raw that I actually just didn't go over in that little bit of a recap? I think I hit nearly every segment. I know Natalia and Maxine were out there talking to Adam Pearce, getting closer and closer to whatever it is they're cooking up. So who would you have had winning that, though, Eddie? I don't know if I agree or disagree, just because that whole match was sort of hampered because of the Raw match the next night. But who would you have had win in the chamber? Like, there's a lot of things that we can't go back on from the booking on the men's side from the Rumble, and I think the chamber is kind of the equivalent of the women's side. Io won, and the chamber said Io winning the title on Ron. I think we could have got there a lot smoother if just the winner of the chamber could have just challenged. Now, in general, I would have been I was in support of given the options of Bianca and Rhea just doing it one-on-one. I think that's my issue with both triple threats is there's a great one-on-one match embedded in these triple threats. It's just we're having to dig through that. So I totally watched SmackDown, and I kind of remember the specifics of Phoenix's debut. Now that you're mentioning it, I remember being pretty hyped for it. I remember seeing the 2 masks. Why do I not recall any of it? Did the favor and the announcement by Kevin Owens just shadow my brain in that? I don't know. Yeah, Charlotte winning the Rumble does that. That was well. It also guaranteed her opponent, and that's worked out so great, right? So Eddie, that's a difficult thing for me to figure out as well, because I had Seth just being much lower on the card right now, based on how he's kind of been booked and presented in the last year. So when I was thinking about it a few months ago, I was having trouble positioning him with someone, but I had him a little bit lower. I had him not necessarily against these guys, but I had him in the range of the guys that were going to be competing, of like the Drew McIntyres of the world. And I'm not saying against him, but I had him on that level for this WrestleMania. But again, the Rumble, they've kept the storyline going and kept it going. What's up, Fernando? What I would wonder on that, Eddie, in terms of Paul joining Seth, is that coupled with something a little bit different for Seth, though, where he is, I think, booked in a much stronger way. And it's not just the silliness and the catchphrases. That doesn't bother me as much as it really bothers other people. I think it's more in the fact that, like, he has very infrequent wins or does stuff very infrequently of consequence. He's often the fall guy in scenarios where there are slightly bigger stars. So if the idea is for him to go with Heyman, is it just because it's such a shock that Heyman goes against these two people that he's been so long associated with, or does it actually reset the Seth Rollins character? Which I think does need a bit of resetting, to be honest with you. It gets great reactions, but I do think there could be a focus drawn in on there. I don't mind Seth wearing Becky's clothes. That's fine. Funny comment though, the way that came in there. The one way though I would say is with Heyman and Seth, in terms of practical matters, is could shorten the Seth promos a little bit if it's Heyman that's cutting more of them. Although I think they may just be taking turns in that case. Even like in the main event segment tonight too, I thought it suffered from the thing that sometimes those Seth segments can suffer when he's talking, and it just feels like it's going on and on. I mean, I've been talking for 48 minutes straight, guys, and I've been saying a lot of nonsense. Seth Rollins has much better stuff to say than I do. But so Eddie, do you think that the words of Punk or the words of Seth would resonate? And by that same time, Eddie, what would be the onus to turn on Punk from Heyman's perspective? We'll see if these receipts matter to the Heyman character. Um, like, I'll be honest though, even what we saw on Friday with Punk's whole thing with asking for the favor and all that, even that was, mm, I felt that was odd, unnecessary, and I don't really think it quite added the stakes that they were meaning to add. Although it has added some TV. I watched the first episode of both and haven't stayed on to either one of those. It was Eddie. You could that felt like the first time I've ever seen Punk really get the better of Roman, maybe outside of some early Shield stuff. But yeah, he didn't. I thought the package was put together pretty well from it tonight as well. So as we're going forward, like what's left on what has to be filled in now on the WrestleMania card? What officially needs to be sorted out? You mentioned the tag division. Women's US title, yes. What is Chelsea doing? So, and as promised last week, and I kind of didn't do that because we got a little off track, but let's look at the almighty Wikipedia so far. Now there's 3 different columns on Wikipedia because you have the advertised nights, and then you have everything else listed officially on TBA. So that gives us 11 total matches now. Obviously, night 1, Roman, Punk, and Seth. Night 2, Cody and Cena. The other matches, and these are just on what has been announced: Tiffany versus Charlotte, Gunther versus Jay, Io versus Bianca versus Ripley, AJ Styles versus Logan Paul, LA Knight versus Jacob Fatu for the US title, Liv and Raquel versus the Gauntlet winners, Jade Cargill versus Naomi, Braun Breaker, Penta, and Finn in their fatal 4-way match. And as was announced tonight, Rey Mysterio versus El Grande Americano. That is quite a bit. There is, in terms of WrestleMania level of matches, though, does that knock your socks off? Is there special stuff in there? If you're traveling, does it seem worth the travel? Obviously, we only have to subscribe to Peacock these days, but if you were going to pay $70, $60, $80 to watch that on pay-per-view, would it be worth it? Would you pay up? That card's pretty filled out, though. When you're looking at this is what we're going to get for WrestleMania for the most part. And I got to say, to answer my own question there earlier, the Cena Road stuff, obviously, very unique. Even if, like last week, I kind of didn't like what they were doing or didn't get it, it is still the most interesting thing on this card, I think, by far. The main event, despite my misgivings of it, is a unique kind of match that would probably only ever happen at a WrestleMania. Other than that, I think Jay and Gunther has the potential to be like one of those big WrestleMania moments. And AJ Styles and Logan Paul could probably be a heck of a spectacular. And Jade and Naomi is something that needs to be paid off. When you look at the rest of that card, though, I don't know if that sticks out as like a WrestleMania have to buy card. Well, there you go, E. Next week, we will make all kinds of predictions. We will predict all those 11 matches and more. We will hold ourselves to those predictions. Very, very strict. I promise we're going to be doing all of that next week. But I've been talking for an hour, breaking down Raw, recapping it. So I'm going to go ahead and get on out of here doing the Broadway for tonight. We have 1 week till WrestleMania. We'll have lots of debates, I'm sure, next week about the builds, about what happened, about the progression, about Roman Reigns' appearance, about what's going to happen in the Cena match. Is there anything worth salvaging in the women's triple threat? But most importantly, we'll make official WrestleMania predictions. We've been on most of the road to WrestleMania together. It'll be time for us to actually make some predictions. So, guys, have a happy Monday, whatever's left of it. I'll talk to you guys next week.